Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to our program. My name is Mac Worley III, and this is On the Move. This is the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. And we have a really good show in store for you. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I just did. By the way, I just want to mention, I'm not saying that this is the cause of the recent stock market drop, but I don't see any evidence to the contrary. We canceled the show last Sunday, you may have noticed, and then suddenly the entire stock market tanks. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that we caused the stock market to crash, but fear not, loyal listeners, we will continue the program. So I didn't mean to make a stock market crash there. So anyway, just want to move on here. Today, I'm really excited. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Today's August 30th, 2015. The show is titled Never Vote Angry. This is episode 84 of the program. And at 5:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be joined by Tom McKirgan and Rob Taylor to discuss their fight against draconian gun laws, and one of them being SB 941. They also have a lot of other things in the works as far as what they're trying to work to prevent. So basically legislation that would try to take away some individual rights. So anyway, we're going to discuss their efforts, and then at 6:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, it's 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be joined by Christian Cruz to discuss his firsthand account on the Never Again Is Now March in Birmingham, Alabama. This was on 8/29. It was the 8/28 event, but I believe the march was on the 29th. This event was hosted by Glenn Beck. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but he did, and he's going to give us the 411 on what happened, and I'm really excited to talk to him, see what happened. From what I understand, there was about 20,000 people marching at that event, so it had to be pretty amazing to be there. They're marching the same streets as Reverend Martin Luther King, so pretty awesome stuff. Lots of history in that town as well. So anyway, today's show is going to be a lot of fun. Let's get the housekeeping stuff underway before we press on here. If you haven't done so already, please follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. That's SPREAKER.com/OnTheMoveShow. And you can follow us there. We'd greatly appreciate it. It's a good way to support the program. Also, we're on iTunes. You can follow us on iTunes and leave us a review and all that good stuff. So feel free to do that. And you can check out our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's another great way to get involved. You see what we got going on. You can listen to the podcast from there. That's our main hub. We got things connected there from Facebook, which, by the way, is Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, and YouTube, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. And you can also follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. So anyway, housekeeping done. Today's featured topics. The first topic that we're going to get into in the Mac Attack is how easy it must be to be a Democrat today. It has to be the easiest political position to take, and I'll get into why. And this is also going to lead into another conversation regarding how progressives, they never miss an opportunity to call for gun control. Anytime there's any incident in the news whatsoever, they jump all over it. Gun control, gun control. And it's even worse during a political election year like what we're seeing now. We have all these people who are running for office, and they see this as their opportunity to call for gun control, which is good for those of us who are paying attention, because we can hold them accountable for their opinions now. That's excellent. Anyway, we're going to get into this further. Then I also want to cover why the Black Lives Movement has blood on its hands. I want to talk about this. I think this is extremely important that we address, and we also address the hypocrisy of how this is being covered. So in addition, obviously, we're going to cover Never Again Is Now. What is that about? And Christian's going to help us break down what happened at the march, as well as give us his insights on that. And then our last topic of the day, we're going to move to why you should never vote angry. And really, I want to give you a philosophical reasoning for this. I mean, you obviously do whatever you want to do, but my opinion is that we have a lot of animosity growing, and it's on both sides. A lot of people are getting very frustrated with the system. A lot of people are getting frustrated with the establishment, and a lot of people are getting divided amongst each other. So I have a real issue with us voting angry, and I'm going to cover some of my topics, or some of my points on that. Anyway, we'll cover a lot of other topics in the news. I have a big stack of articles here that I'm waiting to get through. So feel free to join the conversation. If you have anything you'd like to add, the number to the telephone number is 360-450-5625, 360-450-5625. You can also email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Again, that's talk@onthemoveshow.com. You can message us on facebook.com/onthemoveshow, or get us on Twitter @onthemoveshow. So one more time, that those lines are 360-450-5625. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive right into the next topic of the day here. I actually want to talk a little bit here before we get into everything about the stock market crash and exactly what happened. So anyway, we'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LADOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
And we're back. So I want to talk about this stock market crash. I mean, first and foremost, this is pretty scary stuff. I mean, obviously this isn't a crash of sorts, but they dropped 1,000 points in a single day. I believe this is the largest drop in stock percentages. And again, I'm not a stock market expert by any means. Just so you guys know, you're listening to a layman talk about the stock market. All right, you might as well read a "How to for Dummies" book. But regardless, I know this is the largest drop in history. So this is kind of scary stuff. And I'm watching as the markets in China. I was up all night when this was happening. I'm watching the markets in China have shaky problems. They're going down, and then the markets in America are going down, and then China's going down again. It was crazy. So my thoughts on this. First of all, this is not China's fault. All right. Now, China may be somewhat responsible for the bubble bursting. This is a stock market bubble. This is what we're seeing right now. We have inflated this stock market bubble through loose monetary policy and the Fed just dumping billions of dollars into the stock market a day. All right, billions with a B, and this is problematic. I'm talking about quantitative easing, obviously. So quantitative easing 1, QE1, QE2, QE3. They're talking about a QE4. This is unsustainable, completely unsustainable. And here's one thing that I just want to point out: a little bit of hypocrisy, because the left, they always talk about the evil billionaires and people who aren't paying their fair share and things like that. Well, quantitative easing is a program that Obama is obviously allowing to happen, and this is getting more money into the 1% of the 1%'s hands. All of this taxpayer money is being used to prop up the stock market, to make it look like, oh, we're doing great. We're out of the recession. Everything's fine. Look at how great our stock market's doing. And by pumping all that money in, it creates this facade. It creates this illusion that everything is fine. And let me just ask you, listeners, members of the Mac Pack, is everything fine? Does everything feel normal to you regarding the price of food? Now, we can talk about gas prices, but that's absolutely nothing to do with this. OPEC, I believe that's the name of it. The big conglomerate of oil, the Saudis and all those, they're actually trying to dismantle our fracking industry. They've realized, okay, fracking's causing us some problems. So what they've done is they've flooded the market with a supply of oil. They've pumped and pumped and pumped, and they got a ton of oil now. So unlike what the left has always told us, supply and demand rules and laws, they don't apply to oil. If you pump more oil, you're not going to lower the price of gas. No, that can't happen. But we see it does, and it did. And they're doing this as a strategy. This is a long-term strategy. I believe it's OPEC, if I remember correctly. But they're actually doing this to bankrupt the fracking industry in the country, because they realize that natural gas is really becoming a threat, and they need that threat eliminated. So if they can put the price of oil for a barrel so low that there's no way that natural gas can compete, eventually they just go out of business. And natural gas right now, that industry is fighting to survive right now. They've basically converted to a skeleton crew, and most of the businesses that are having problems, they either are gone or they're struggling right now. So I was reading some articles about this not too long ago. It's pretty fascinating stuff. So when we're talking about how well things are going and how things are getting cheaper or more expensive, you can't really equate fuel, gasoline, oil into that, because there's other things amiss here. All right? But when we're talking about food at the grocery store, is your food getting cheaper? Are services getting cheaper? Are cars getting cheaper? Are homes getting cheaper? The real estate market's had its problems. But regardless, are things more affordable now, or are they less affordable? And I think most of you out there would agree that things are more expensive. Things are harder to afford. And things aren't better. Just because you prop up the stock market doesn't mean we're all out of the recession. It's hard to find work nowadays. And it's hard. I understand the desire for the left to want to earn a, quote, living wage, a wage that you can live off of. I get it. It's difficult. But that's not on the employer. You can't force somebody to pay you more than what the work you're doing is worth. So, therein lies the problem. And we talk about all these other issues where, it's so difficult to be competitive in the job market today because you need a bachelor's degree now to be competitive, whereas you were competitive in that same job not too long ago with an associate's, and pretty soon you'll need a master's to do that same job. And there's only so many master's level skilled jobs out there. So the problem is we're stifling our industries. We're restricting production, which is the only way to make wealth in a country, by the way. We're completely choking out our industry. And we're propping up the stock market to make it look like everything's fine. Everything's not fine. And this bubble, like all bubbles, will burst. And I have to tell you guys, please take some time. I know I don't focus on this very often. I usually don't talk about emergency preparedness too often, because I know I'm talking to a smaller crowd when I'm talking about that. There's less people out there that are really interested in this stuff. So, for me though, I am a prepper. I prep. I'm into emergency preparedness. These are things that I worry about. And, I don't prep for the end of the world. I don't prep for the sun to blow up. I mean, how do you prep for that, first of all? I don't think you can. But, I'm a prepper, and I prep for things that, maybe will happen. I don't know what could happen. I just prep food, water, things like that, things that I think I'll need. So what I'm talking about is something that is bound to happen. This stock market will burst at some point. It will. It's not a matter of if it will, it's when. This kind of monetary policy cannot work. We're going to go the way of the Weimar Republic, where kids were playing with bricks of money in the streets, making pyramids out of it, and igloos and all sorts of stuff to play in. It's going to become worthless at some point. We just cannot sustain this. We're going to lose our reserve currency, as John Kerry was already talking about. I think the last show that we did, I was talking about John Kerry saying that we're going to lose our reserve currency. You know what? Let me just play the clip real quick. I have it right here. I'll go ahead and play it.
That is a recipe very quickly, my friends, business people here, for the American dollar to cease to be the reserve currency of the world, which is already bubbling out there.
So, first of all, this is a big deal because this is the Secretary of State saying that we could potentially lose the world reserve currency, which is something that they've never admitted. And this has always been the biggest conspiracy theory ever. Oh, you're just a nut job. You think that we're going to lose the reserve currency. You're crazy. That could never happen. Never. It'll never happen. Well, now they're admitting that it could happen. All I'm saying is take some precautions. All right? And now, I'm not even trying to sell you anything. I don't care where you get the stuff. Go get some food. Go get some water. At a minimum, 3 days, but I think that's nothing. You should have 3 days worth of food just in your cabinets from the stuff that you went to the grocery store. You should always have 3 days worth of food and water in your house. So take some extra steps. I mean, it really doesn't take a lot of money and energy to get, a 5-gallon bucket and fill it up with beans or rice and put it in a Mylar bag and seal it up, and you don't have to deal with it again. That's. You put it there and you can forget about it. It's food insurance. You don't need to worry about it. But I'm telling you right now, at some point, and who am I to predict this? I'm not Nostradamus or anything, but I feel like the writing is on the wall. At some point, this will just collapse. It's unsustainable. So anyway, we have a caller here on the line. I'm going to go ahead and take this call. Let me see here. All right. Hey, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from? Hey, caller, are you there?
Hello, Matt.
Hey.
Matt?
Yeah, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Tom McKirgan.
Oh, hey, Tom. How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. All right, so you're live on the air, just so you know. And anyway, Tom is our guest that was coming on today. He's talking about the fight that him and Rob Taylor are doing to actually fight against SB 941. So, Tom, can you start us at the beginning and actually explain to our listeners what is SB 941 and why is it bad?
Well, SB 941 was introduced by Floyd Krzansky, state senator, and he had quite a bit of backing. We have the House and Senate are Democrat held. The SB 941 is basically a backdoor registration scheme. They are trying to create where they did make it law and they did pass it, and just earlier this year, you have to do background checks on weapons transfers for individuals on private gun sales, and it's just gone from there to the extreme of having to lock your weapon up in a safe, even if you didn't have kids, and so many other weird things. Well, I can tell you more detail about that. But basically, when you buy a firearm, you have to do a background check on each one. And so then they've changed it here and there, and they just can't seem to get it straight. And so we're protesting it all throughout the state of Oregon right now. And we're getting our Second Amendment preservation ordinance on the November 3rd ballot that will, it's a 6-pager that's designed after the Wallowa County version that they had passed. And basically it throws in SB 941 out the door in the county. And most of these counties are putting out resolutions stating that they're not going to offer any assistance or any funds going towards the enforcement of it. Most sheriffs in the county will not enforce it. So they're having the state police do that for them.
I see. So what you guys are trying to work on right now, from what I understand, is a petition to get on the ballot for, what is it, Coos County? Is that correct?
Right, and we've already gone through that process. We collected, I can't remember exactly, it was like 4,600 signatures throughout the county, and we were able to put it on the ballot. The people, the voters of this county has decided that it's going to be on the Coos County ballot in November, and even our sheriff, Craig Zanny, is 100% behind that ordinance and the effort that we're putting through. However, Coos County commissioners don't seem to believe it's part of their job to protect it. They think it's more of a federal and state issue, and that where they deal with the infrastructure of the county and all the local issues. So they don't feel it's their purview to fight against something that, quote, becomes state law. And they don't think that our measure will have anything to do to thwart it. Well, I'll tell you what, it does. And we had given them quite a bit of warning a while back. First, we asked them to pass the first page, just a single page, and they refused to do that. So then we went back to them again and again, and they kept giving us a song and dance. And one commissioner, Bob Main, is very much for it, and he introduced the one-page resolution as well, an addendum that they would not even go along with it, basically, and not put any county resources or funds towards the enforcement of it. So the other two commissioners, John Sweet and Melissa Cribbins, turned it down. And the next day, when we were supposed to have a work session a week later, and then the two failed to show up at the work session during a work week on a Wednesday, and then the very next day, 941 got passed. So we kind of feel that, one could surmise that maybe it was intentional. Who knows? But it sure wasn't right. And these individuals are not honoring their oath to support the Constitution, even of the Oregon Constitution.
Absolutely.
So we warned them that we're going to go ahead and do it for them. And then we came together and we brought in the 6th page, which is even more staunch and more protective. We even have it under an ordinance, a state ordinance, where it's enforceable. So any person trying to enforce any portion of this 941 here in Coos County will get a $2,000 fine per person, per incident. And if it's a corporation, it's $4,000 fine. So it is enforceable here.
Wow.
But 941 will not be.
Wow. Okay. So this is up for the ballot. What is this titled as far as for the ordinance, so people know what to vote for?
It's the Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance, and it will be on the ballot. And we collected the signatures; they were verified, and that's what I want to encourage people to do, Mac. Is we're just citizens, but we're American citizens, and we're really sick of seeing what's going on in our country. I'm with Oregon 3%ers, and the director of operations there. We've got some very astute professional people that are bringing all of this to the forefront, and we're active in so many ways, politically and other. We stand against tyranny wherever it may be. So we've already accomplished several goals here in Oregon and thwarted some bureaucratic assaults on people's liberties. And so we're taking a stand, and we want to encourage other people to do that too, and get politically active and start recalling individuals. And matter of fact, one of those two commissioners, John Sweet, we're also running a recall on him to get him out. He's got 3 more years left, and we sure don't want to do any more damage. So we're working on that as we speak, and the main reason is because he failed to support our Second Amendment. That's period. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, and that this is I have to say, first of all, congratulations on getting this onto the ballot, and I just have to commend you guys for taking the initiative to actually do something. Get up and actually do it. So I like that that you guys decided that you're not going to sit around and wait on these do-nothing commissioners, and you did it yourself. You use the system that's there, your voice, to actually get this on the ballot, and we'll see what the people of Coos County. This is in Oregon, right?
You bet.
Okay, yeah. So the people of Coos County have to say about this. It's. I think with a name like this too. I mean, you guys picked a good name too. Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance. That's a good name. I think anybody who supports supports gun rights will see that and vote for it. And I know Oregon has a very very vibrant gun rights community out there too. So I know there's a lot of people out there that will vote for this.
You bet. There's a whole county law, but not only that, is it's a brush fire. It starts the liberty movement throughout the state. And then that goes out to other states. So it's a really good positive move when you get a win and you're able to push forward with it and tell those representatives that we're not going to take it anymore and that they work for us. See, they're our employees. We're their boss. Our founders designed that way and gave us the tools that we can continue on what they so bravely fought for. Now, these people back then picked up a rifle to do what our local elected officials refused to do, the pen. And they can put a stroke of the pen on a paper and protect our rights. But they don't.
Yeah. It's to me, it's outrageous how many public officials have absolutely no respect for the oath that they took to the Constitution. They look at it as it's almost a joke when you call them out on it. In fact, not to talk about me, but I mentioned to the police officers who unlawfully arrested me, kind of sarcastically, thank you for honoring your oath to the Constitution after they unlawfully searched me and seized my weapon and unlawfully detained me, all this stuff. I sarcastically said that, and they laughed. They laughed about it. So to me, it's.
Well, you see, Mac, then it's a lack of knowledge when it comes to the Constitution. Police officers, like I'm retired from that, we're taught procedural law and how to enforce the law, not so much exactly what the law is. It's pounded into you through the Oregon State revised statutes and the local statutes, etc. But then again, it's a lack of knowledge, and the same thing with elected officials. They think that they're honoring their oath, but they swear to something they have no knowledge about. And that's where they're really making a mistake. But the sad part is the general public accepts it because they have that lack of knowledge as well. So we like to educate others about the Constitution and Federalist Papers and all of these tools that we have for us. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, you see. We don't have to rewrite the Second Amendment. We're just preserving it.
Yes,
and
sir.
by all means, that's the way it's going to be.
Yes, sir, yeah. By the way, we're joined now by Rob Taylor. Rob, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So we're mid-conversation here talking about this bill that you guys you got on the ballot, the Preserve the Second Amendment ordinance, and I want to get your thoughts on what actually sparked you to do something about this.
Well, I've been an activist for many, many years, and it's not that it's something I wouldn't normally do. I support the Second Amendment outright, but I've been fighting for our rights, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth, the Sixth, because they've all been deteriorated through the war on drugs, through the war on terror, through the encroachment of many different, not only just legislation, but presidential actions and through state and local laws. We are losing these rights, and so, as someone who is pretty intuitive to these types of things happening, I realized many, many years ago that it was time to get involved. So I've probably been involved for a couple of decades now, and this is just one of the latest issues that I'm fighting currently.
Yes, sir. So as far as things that people can do to help, I know basically you have to get the movement going. And from what I understand, you guys are converting now from a petitioning organization where you're focused on getting the signatures for the petition, but now you basically have to shift gears and turn this into a public awareness campaign about this. So I'm assuming you guys have some kind of plan on doing this. Can people go somewhere to volunteer their time to help?
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who does want to get involved and help can sign up at my website, Coos County Watchdog. And at that website, we try not to send out too many newsletters. I'm the one who is the only editor, so you'll receive maybe one newsletter every couple of weeks, and we'll let you know which meetings you have to be aware of, and different places where you can go and sign these petitions. But as you said, we are now in the stage of becoming a political action committee. I'm debating on whether going ahead and creating a political action committee and just allowing individuals to go ahead and push the measure themselves using their own money, and that way I don't have to create a whole other entity through the Secretary of State's office. It saves me a little bit of time and effort with the documentation, and in Oregon, as long as you spend $750 or less, any individual can spend money on a campaign.
So, so here's my question. Have you been approached, or have you got any feedback from big gun organizations like, the NRA? I know that they're a little less inclined to get involved for some reason in the Pacific Northwest, or even some of the no compromise gun organizations. Have you got any word from any of them?
Yes, I would say one comes to mind, and one is the only one who has contacted me. Tom would have to speak for himself, and that would be Kevin Starrett from the Oregon Firearm Federation. That is the only organization that has reached out to us and has promoted our events and our petition drive while he was, in legislation. So, he's one of the few, if people are willing to reach out to him, he's willing to take the time to let people know what's going on the local level. But most of the other groups, unfortunately, like a lot of political organizations, no matter what they are advocating for, what eventually happens is that the organization becomes the main goal, is to build the organization and not the mission statement that the organization is promoting. Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, especially in terms of the NRA. Just to give you guys a heads up, I'm a life member of the NRA, and I believe that you have to change that organization from within the inside, which is why I'm not getting rid of my membership. But regarding what they've been doing or what they haven't been doing as well, I can clearly see a picture being painted here as far as what they're concerned with. And what I see with the NRA is them ignoring and abandoning the Pacific Northwest with SB 941 and I-594 in Washington. These were experiments that were being conducted by the left to see if they can get away with this, and then the NRA didn't put any money or effort into fighting this. And what do you know, lo and behold, now we have SB 941 and I-594 in Washington. It's very frustrating for me because I can see what they're doing. This is them saying, "Oh, look what happened in Washington and Oregon. You need the NRA." It's all a ploy, in my opinion, to get people to give them more money. And I'm all for giving money to good causes like protecting the Second Amendment. But to me, I feel like this is just giving money to an organization that let this happen. They were asleep on watch.
Well, we weren't contacted by the NRA or anyone else, but by Kevin Starrett through Oregon Firearms Federation. I'll tell you, I can't really comment on the NRA, but what I understand through other people's contacts is that they compromise too much with politicians, and we're at that stage now that there's no compromise, not one more inch. We just don't want to do it.
Absolutely. And by the way, I have to give Kevin at Oregon Firearms Federation a lot of props. He has actually helped me out. He's donated to my defense fund when I got unlawfully arrested. And this is an Oregon Firearms Federation donating to somebody in Washington State because he realizes the importance of the situation. And my hat's off to Kevin and the Oregon Firearms Federation. They're Oregon's only no-compromise gun rights organization. And I highly recommend that you guys check them out. Listeners out there, OregonFirearms.com. That's OregonFirearms.com. And let them know that you support them if you want to donate to the cause. Do you guys have any final thoughts or anything about what people can do, where people can go? Anything on your mind before we take off?
Sure. I want to tell you real quick, there's other ways to fight this than politically. And one thing that the American people have is their First Amendment right to protest and to grieve to their representatives. In McMinnville, they passed an ordinance where you couldn't carry a firearm and it's loaded inside their city parks and properties. Well, that to us violates our Second Amendment. So yesterday we had a great big Pacific Patriot Network and 3%ers and Oath Keepers barbecue there in Joe Dancer Park in McMinnville, and every one of us were armed. We didn't have any problem whatsoever. No police showed up. I think a motor officer came by on a motorbike, and he just wanted to say hi, and he was all for it. He thought it was great. He was a nice guy. No problems. The guns didn't jump off the tables and shoot us down to the ground or anything. Very peaceful, very friendly, good fun we had together, and the kids played out in the field and soccer and all. But you see, we also, there we're violating SB 41, and the same thing with the Cruz Bay. We had a 3% get-together on the boardwalk here the day before that. It was Friday. And we violated SB 941. We did a weapons transfer right in the crosswalk of Highway 101 at a red light. 8 of us crossed the road, and we passed a rifle and shotgun down to each one of us. Did it 3 times, and not a problem. It's unenforceable, you see. So we're not going to take that. It's our government, our representatives. They are our rights. And so you need to do that peacefully, safely, and calmly. But you can get around these things.
Absolutely.
Say no to tyranny and stand up.
I like that. Say no to tyranny. That's good. Yeah, you know, it's not enough for the law to be essentially nullified where you can violate it in front of the police. That's a step in the absolute right direction. However, you know, it's one of those last resort things because they know that it's unenforceable. And in addition, you know, we also have jury nullification. So if a jury refuses to convict you, then that's a last resort, honestly. But, you know, we still got to keep doing efforts like what you guys are doing to get the law off the books, to get counties to stop enforcing it. And finally, you know, I think it's time for our elected officials to just know that we're tired of this and we're not going to stand up for it anymore. And I love that you guys are standing up and doing something about it.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Anyway, one last time, guys, give me your social media, where people can go to get involved, and all of that good stuff, so that people know where to go to support your initiative.
Anyone?
Go ahead, Rob.
All right. Anyone who wants to get in contact with me about the recalls we're doing or any of the other petitions, go to CruzCountyWatchdog.com. That's just one word with a C. CruzCountyWatchdog.com, and you can find everything you need right there.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for what you're doing.
Sure. Join us on Facebook, Oregon3%.com.
Oh, actually, yeah. But before you go, can you talk a little bit about 3%, that organization? I'd like to get some information on that for our listeners so they know what exactly that is.
Back in the revolutionary times, there was 3% of the population that was neutral, 3% of the population that was for Britain, and 3% that said no. And those are the 3% that caused what we have today to enjoy the liberties that we have that God gave us. What government didn't give us, government cannot take away. And we are that 3%. Whether we like it or not, we are today's second founding fathers. You see, liberty doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the future and to our children, our legacy, and we have to preserve it for them. So by all means, we will step forward and protect this Constitution in the United States. That's what 3% is all about.
So this is an organization, right?
You bet. Volunteer organization that is that helps veterans out when the government wants to take their guns away. We've already been there. They stand in front of tyranny. And our motto is basically when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty.
Do you guys have local chapters like broken down into states like 3% Oregon, 3% Washington, stuff like that?
You bet. There's a national 3% movement as well in almost every state. Idaho has one. I believe Washington and Oregon is coming up. And they're sisters Oath Keepers, and they're basically the same thing, different T-shirts and some different goals and objectives. But, you know, it's patriots. It's people coming together. They're finally seeing what's happening. They want to get involved. They want to donate. We need help in every area because we're going to be helping people, so we need help and to teach them to help themselves. And we'd be preservation, food preservation, stockpiles, all kinds of things that we're teaching people, basic skills that they need, survivability. And we pay attention to the economy, what's happening, and politically. So we want to stay, just above them if possible, close to it. But very good people, good organizations. So I encourage you to join 3%ers or Oath Keepers and get involved with your Patriot organizations.
Yes,
You're going to need them, and we need them.
What was their website? Did they have one?
Oregon 3%. It's 3 dashes and spelled percent.com. That's one web page, our main website. But we're also on Facebook, Oregon 3%, 3 dashes, with a percentage sign.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Tom and Rob. You guys are doing awesome things. And if you guys need any more information spread out and disseminated amongst everybody, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to report it. You can come back on. I want to make sure that we stay on top of what's going on with this ballot. I know we don't vote on it until November, or at least Coos County doesn't. So, you guys are going to need some efforts to get people the heads up about it, and I would love to push this message and try to help you guys as much as I can.
Well, thank you, Matt. You can also let people know that the Coos County area that we could sure use some help gathering signatures for our recall of John Sweet that I mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting this out there on the radio and getting the word out.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, anything I can do, just let me know. And for those of you out there, just so you know, you don't have to be a voter in Coos County to actually get involved and help them out. It's the way I look at it is we're all in the same boat here, and we got to stick together. So, anyway, thanks so much for joining us, Tom and Rob.
All right, goodbye.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty, guys. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to move into the Mac Attack segment of the show, and we're going to start covering some of the featured topics we have. So anyway, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
And we're back. When we last left, we had Tom McKirgan and Rob Taylor on the phone. We were talking about their efforts to actually essentially nullify SB 941, which is a draconian gun law in Oregon. It basically makes it so you have to get a background check for a transfer of possession of a firearm. Not ownership, but possession. So, I want to hand you a gun, you hand me a gun. That is considered two transfers in the eyes of this law, and therefore two separate background checks are required. One for when I handed it to you, and one for when you handed it back to me. Those are two background checks. And it is a felony to conduct this without a background check. Is considered an unlawful transfer, basically. So, which is a felony under this law, and it's completely draconian and unenforceable. And many people around the country and state in particular are doing that all the time. I mean, every time that you've ever handed a gun to somebody, hey, you want to check out my new gun? Hey, you want to go shoot? I'll let you borrow my gun. Or, hey, can I borrow your gun to go hunting? You know, something like that. Those kind of things happen all the time, and they're impossible to prevent. You can't stop that. And more importantly, if you're actually trying to prevent crime, if you're actually trying to stop gun violence, you're actually trying to keep the guns out of the hands of the criminals, how will this help? How will this stop anyone from dying? I mean, they already have to submit to a background check to get the gun in the first place. So basically, what you're saying is that if somebody who's straw purchasing a gun for a convicted felon who would be unable to obtain this firearm otherwise because they have this felony on their record, if that straw purchaser, which is, by the way, that's already a felony, and it's already against the law to straw purchase a firearm where you buy it with the intention of giving it to someone who can't get it. That's straw purchasing. That's already a felony. That's already illegal. So now you're going to put another thing on the books here saying that they need a background check just for person-to-person transfers. How are you going to track that? Straw purchases happen, and they're off the books. You can't, unless you catch them red-handed, you can't stop that. You can't stop somebody from just selling a gun to so-and-so, off the books. How are you going to do that? It's an unenforceable law, and all that does is put more red tape and burdens on the regular folks, the people who aren't the problems, the law-abiding citizens. That is what this is all about. They don't want to stop the gun violence. Let's be clear. They don't want to stop gun violence. They want gun violence to continue because they always need a good scapegoat. The Democrats, the liberals, the progressives, probably the best word to describe them because progressives are within both parties, Republican and Democrat. They are in constant search for scapegoats, someone to blame. Someone. It has to be someone's fault. Let me first just point out here the similarities, between Nazi Germany and I don't like to throw these out there. I'm not saying that Democrats or progressives are Nazis. I'm not saying that. But let's just point out that this is a bad path to start leading down where you start looking for scapegoats. You're always looking for someone else to blame. It happened in Nazi Germany. They blamed the Jews for everything. And that's why the Germans, a lot of people in the population didn't really care too much for the Jews because, and I'm not saying that all Germans hated Jews. No, it's actually a smaller percentage of the population. But that's the problem, is that this small, loud minority of people who were blaming everything on everyone else, they took power. That's kind of a problem, kind of an issue, and we're on that same path now. So they're looking for scapegoats, but what they're asking for, what they're calling for with the gun violence, it doesn't do anything but prevent the guns from getting in average citizens' hands who weren't the problem in the first place. I mean, if you're not willing to violate the law to get a gun in the first place, if let's say all guns were illegal, let's say tomorrow they passed a complete and total ban of all firearms, which, by the way, they want to do. This is not something that I'm just throwing out like it's ridiculous, such a ridiculous thought. No. This is actually what they want to do, as evidenced by Dianne Feinstein saying it herself. Here she is.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Okay, so they want an outright ban. That's where this is leading. They want an outright ban. But, again, let's not even get, for now, into the logistics of that. But let's just say if they did ban it tomorrow, if they banned firearms tomorrow, they got their wish, they banned firearms tomorrow, the only people that had firearms would be people who would be willing to violate the law, commit a felony to have that. And granted, in this circumstance, many of you would be Americans who are not criminals, but I can guarantee you that an outright ban of firearms, it will not affect the population of guns that the criminals currently have. Criminals aren't just going to go turning in their guns because suddenly guns are illegal. No. Criminals will keep their guns, as well as I would severely hope that a large portion of the American population would refuse to turn in their guns. I know I will. So if that happens, I'm not turning in my guns. You're going to have to come and get them. I'm not going to turn them in. And I hope that enough people are out there that would think the same way. And here's the thing. Hillary Clinton just said the other day that, I think it was Hillary, that Australia is the model for gun control. Australia. It's impossible to say that without saying that you support confiscation, because that's exactly what happened in Australia. They confiscated firearms. And when they did that, they didn't even get all of the firearms. There's still firearms in the population. And by the way, after that, they saw a dramatic increase in the amount of home invasions in Australia as well. So, Australia is a perfect case, really? But this is the thing. If you follow the logical path of all these gun control advocates, they all lead to confiscation, because all of their actions, everything that they do, won't do anything to actually solve problems, to solve gun violence. Nothing they do is effective. Oh, background checks? Okay, well, we already have those. Universal background checks. Well, now what does that mean? You add universal to it. That means every every single gun transfer whatsoever, they close the gun show loophole. And the gun show loophole is your freedom to sell a firearm to another person of the state. That's the gun show loophole. That you don't have to submit to a background check every time you want to hand a gun to somebody. And first of all, let's just point out that many of these shooters have, mass shooters anyway, have obtained their guns legally, lawfully. We'll get into this in a minute. And the violence that they talk about. See, they talk about two different things. They like to talk about mass shootings and gun violence at the same time. Like, those are the same things. Mass shootings, that's one small little segment of gun violence. That'd be like talking about accidental discharges and then lumping in all the violent murders with firearms in the same conversation. Those are two different topics. A small percentage of the actual deaths in America from gun violence coming from mass shooters. However, they're heavily politicized, and we all know the reason for that, because the left media, they protect themselves. They protect the Democrats. They protect the progressive agenda, which is gun control. Essentially, trying to take away your freedoms. So, this is an issue. Anyway, let's see here. I got to get to the actual Mac Attack segment here. Let's go ahead and enter into that segment. Like I said, this is a segment called the Mac Attack. This is where we talk about outrageous events in the news. So anyway, here we go.
It's time for the Mac Attack!
All right. So if you'd like to join today's conversation, feel free to give us a call. The number of the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that number is 360-450-5625. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. So it's got to be pretty stinking easy to be a Democrat today. I mean, just think about it. If you're standing opposed to a Republican, a Republican's talking about some stuff, and you're talking about some other stuff. And what are they talking about? What's all that stuff that's being said? Well, Democrats, they basically just get up on the podium and start promising to give you free crap I mean, that's it. All right, I'm going to give you food stamps and welfare and health care and cell phones and college. I'm going to pay for the first 2 years of college unless you're Bernie Sanders and you say that all public universities should be free. Okay, that's coming out of somebody's pocket. Nothing is ever free. In addition, they talk about citizenship. We're going to give away citizenship and act like that's not an incentive to actually have more people come here illegally and violate our laws. They talk about Social Security. Oh, Social Security, Social Security. All right. Again, that's not exactly free, but, on average, recipients are actually getting more money or will get more money back than they paid into it. So, Social Security, it's not necessarily something that you completely paid for. And I know that's controversial. I know that is something that people don't like to hear. A lot of people, even conservatives, by the way, will say, oh, I'm conservative, I'm fiscally conservative, but don't touch my Social Security. That's mine. And granted, you did put money into it. Absolutely true. You put money into it. And you may not have gotten back all that money yet, and that may be true as well. However, it is just statistical fact that on average, recipients are getting back more money than they paid into it. And I mean a lot more money. So especially over the lifetime, we're living longer now than we were expected to. So, that's probably at the behest of our government. I'm sure they're not very happy about that. But anyway, and also these Democrats say they promise to keep you safe. They'll keep you safe from gun violence for the children, which, by the way, they drag on the stage, the victims of gun violence, anybody who's associated with the family, they just bring them out, parade them in front of everybody, and now they become these big advocates against gun violence. And honestly, I don't know how they can go out on stage and not feel like pawns. How can you not feel like you're being used by somebody who doesn't give a crap about what happened to you? If they actually did, they would take steps. If they actually wanted to prevent gun violence, they would allow people to be armed. The best way I know of to prevent people from getting shot is to have everyone in the room armed. That's the only way. Unless you have somebody who's suicidal. Now, here's the thing. Just look at the targets that mass shooters pick. Where are they going? Are they going to an armory and shooting up the armory? No, they don't do that. Where are they going? Are they going to the police station, shooting up a police station? Not typically. I'm sure there's probably a case out there, but I haven't heard of one in forever. I mean, I remember reading an article not too long ago about some history about the real IRA in Ireland, and they were throwing pipe bombs at police and stuff, but those were more targets of opportunity, and they had an agenda. They had a reason. This is a terrorist organization. This is not just, I guess it is a terrorist organization probably in the eyes of the government, but I digress. The organization had a reason for attacking the people that attacked. It looked at it as an invading force, so that was why they were attacking those people. So, but mass shooters, where are they shooting up? Shooting up movie theaters. They're shooting up places that are gun-free zones. I mean, I think that says everything. They're picking targets that they know they can get away from. Or at least they think they'll have a better opportunity to get away from. They're picking soft targets with vulnerable people that they know won't be armed, or at least there's a high probability that they won't be armed because it's a gun-free zone. If these people, if the liberals, progressives, if they actually cared about protecting people, if they actually cared about the victims that they drag on stage to tout in front of you and make you feel like a bad guy because you are peacefully asserting your constitutionally protected natural right, the right that existed far before the government was even created, and the reason for the government's creation itself was to protect life, liberty, and property. How can the government go against the original purpose for its creation? To attack your natural rights. That's your liberty. Government starts attacking your liberty, it goes against the reason for its creation, which was to protect life, liberty, and property. Very simple concept. And when you start talking about redistribution of wealth as well, I know this is another conversation, but it all falls into this same concept. Why was the government created? To protect life, liberty, and property. That's why we established it. To create certainty out of uncertainty. To allow us to stop spending so much of our time worrying about protecting our own property, worrying about protecting our own liberty and lives. To come together as a community and create a government that can do it for us. Not only it doing it for us. The government isn't the only ones responsible. We're responsible as well. But the government's job, that's his only job, to protect life, liberty, and property. So, anyway, redistribution of wealth obviously is an attack of private property, and redistribution of wealth goes against the creation, the reason for the creation of the government as well. So, anyway, back to the gun violence thing. You know, the liberals, it really upsets me because this is their utopia that they think that they can create. They think that they can just have Big Brother cradle you in your arms and protect you. And I think this is an idea that really appeals to a lot of uninformed people. A lot of people who, first of all, they don't realize that the government has no duty to protect you. Absolutely no duty, responsibility to protect you. According to not just me, the United States Supreme Court, the government has no duty to protect you at all. So, it's kind of unfortunate that we keep giving them more and more responsibility to protect us. You know, here's the thing. There are bad people out there in the world. And bad people, guess what? They do bad things. And the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun, and this is so cliche now, but it's true, is a good guy with a gun. I mean, it makes sense. You call 911 because you're wanting to get a good guy with a gun there. That's why you're calling. Oh, 911, somebody's shooting. Okay, we'll be there in 30 minutes. You can order a pizza and get it faster some cases. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You carry a gun with you to protect yourself. And yeah, there's gonna be people who do bad things. There's already people who do bad things. So regarding how easy it is for a Democrat, you know, they're placating to this uninformed crowd, people who just want free stuff and they want the government to protect them. They don't want to think about all the bad stuff in the world. I don't want to think about it. Look, man, people are dying. I don't want to think about that. Just give me free stuff and protect me from all this bad stuff. Protect me, Big Brother. Look, I get it. That's an easy way to look at things. That's an easy way to live your life. Let other people do everything for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Just collect your free stuff and, you know, live in bliss. You can watch your Monday Night Football and keep up with the Kardashians. That's cool. If that's how you want to live your life, okay. But I'm just making a point here about how easy it has to be. I mean, when you are a politician calling for these kind of things, I mean, how difficult is it to get votes? And then you're promising citizenship to illegal immigrants. I mean, honestly, this is the most obvious play towards a voting block that you can possibly have. Of course, these people will vote for you if you gave them citizenship. They're trying to lock down a giant voting block. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It has to be the easiest thing in the world. Republicans, on the other hand, you know, we're talking about, you know, things like personal responsibility, balancing budgets. You know, they talk about unfunded liabilities. Oh my God, this is so boring. I'm already getting bored. All right, you know, they talk about taking away entitlements, and people are like, "Oh, you're not taking my Social Security. You're not touching that. That's mine. I paid for that." And you did pay some, but people are getting more than what they paid in. This is not me. This is not my opinion. This is statistical fact. You don't believe me? Google it. But it's just a fact, and it's not a conservative principle to to want to redistribute wealth. And that's what it is when you are getting more than what you paid into something, is that's redistribution of wealth. And again, that goes against the concept, the fundamental concept of why this country was created. This country was created to protect your property, not to equally redistribute it to others. This country was not created to create equality or justice. This country, this government was created to prevent injustice, to prevent inequality, and not in terms of like making sure everybody has the same stuff. All right, no, that's communism. That's not it's not capitalism. First of all, it's not our form of government. And when you're talking about why this country was created and redistribution of wealth in general, there's really no way around the fact that when the government takes from one group and gives to another, that is immoral. And you have to base this off of the example. If I did that as an individual, if I took from one group and I gave that money to another group that I thought was more deserving, that would be theft. That would be theft. But when the government does it, suddenly it's not immoral. Suddenly it's okay. I would argue that it's equally immoral if the government does it than if an individual does it. It's still theft. And it violates the principle for the creation of the country. That's my point. But I just think it's harder to sell people who are uninformed as, for example, a Republican versus the Democrats. I think it's harder to sell uninformed people. And people just want something for nothing. A lot of people just want something for nothing. And I get that. I mean, who wouldn't want to get something free? But the thing is, free isn't free. It's not free. Someone else is paying for those things. Someone else earned that money first, and then it was taxed, and now it was given to you. Those kind of policies, I don't support. And I don't think it's very conservative to support that. But again, the uninformed, they flock to that. The uninformed are, free. The government's giving it to us, and they don't link the connection. It's like there was a bunch of Obama voters that were so excited to get money from the government. This is a few years back. I think it was close to 2008, and I think it was a stimulus package that went out or something, and people got checks, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, these people were out there, oh yeah, got my Obama stuff, woohoo, and it's really sad because they were challenged on, well, where does the government get this money? He's like, I don't know, Obama. They think that Obama gave them money. They think that the money came from Obama or the government, and they don't understand that everything that the government has, it stole from you. Everything the government has. That's why it's so important that a small government is maintained small. It doesn't grow, but that's a natural thing for governments. Governments just naturally will grow and spread. They're like an invasive plant species. I don't know if any of you have any experience with bamboo. Bamboo is one of the most invasive plant species on the earth. And actually, you can cut it down and it'll grow right back up. And it sprouts its roots under the ground. So it basically grows like grass, where its root systems connect and sprouts up all through the ground all over the place. It can get out of control. It can grow so fast. I think I heard one plant species of bamboo grows 6 feet in a day. I think I heard that on one of them. Maybe I'm wrong, but unbelievably fast growing. You can cut it. It just keeps growing up. It doesn't become a stump. So extremely invasive. It'll just spread and spread and spread and get out of control really quick. That's like governments. Governments grow and grow and grow. One program that they spread to creates 6 more programs, and those 6 more create 6 more, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads, and eventually you're looking at this 15-headed hydra that you don't know where it came from. that's what we see now. We have a federal Leviathan that is touching every single part of our lives. I mean, there's not one area in your entire life that the government doesn't have some say in at all. Maybe not in your city or state, but somewhere somebody's being regulated or governed on everything there is. So, I mean, even down to the amount of water that you can have in your toilet bowl. The government's involved. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But this is the thing, you know. If the government was really trying to protect your life, your liberty, and your property being the emphasis on this point, then they would work to keep themselves, the government itself, as small as possible, because every single program that they do steals money from me and you. Every single program. So they would try to keep the tax burden low by not creating useless programs. And I'm sorry, but if you work for the government, you know, I'm not berating you. I'm not saying anything negative about you, but just know that you are not the justification for your job, or at least you shouldn't be. You're working for the public. And your job has to have some benefit to the public. And in my opinion, that benefit has to be something that is not possible. Let's say that. Not possible for the free market to do. Your job has to be something that is so specific that the government is the only option to do this. You know, and even in my opinion, you know, police and firefighters, I think it could be done without government. I honestly do. I don't think this is very complicated. This isn't a very. I mean, we have insurance that is done without government. So why don't we? I mean, like car or house insurance, stuff like that. I'm sure there's tons of government regulations involving that, but still, there's private companies. Why couldn't we hire a police department, a security service? Why? I mean, we're already, the government is already taking that money out of your paycheck. The government's already stealing that money from you. So don't tell me that, oh, well, people can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. Well, the government's taking out of your paycheck. You're telling me that we couldn't take that same money and maybe use it better, use it smarter? Oh, well, you know, some people don't pay anything in the taxes. Oh, well, they're getting lots of money back, you know, in tax returns. They're getting more money back than what they paid into it and things like that. Okay, well, you're just highlighting a redistribution of wealth issue for me, all right? And I understand that, you know, some people may not be able to afford to pay for private security or something like that, but you're telling me that a community couldn't come together. A collective of people could not come together to organize a private company to secure their town. You're telling me that's impossible? And you're telling me that wouldn't protect everybody? I disagree. I think that, first of all, Americans are extremely charitable. I was reading that 95% of American households donate to charity every year. And I think last year, 2014, it was $350 billion or something donated to charity from Americans. Imagine how much more charity you'd be able to donate to if the government wasn't taking 50% or more, depending on where you lived, of your paycheck. We're extremely charitable. We look out for our own. But when the government is the ones that we give that responsibility to, when the government is responsible for taking care of us, then we have a real issue, because then we stop looking towards ourselves and we stop taking that personal responsibility to be the leaders in the community, to try to actually look out for people who are hurting, look out for people who need help, look out for people who need security. When you rely on the government, it takes all that responsibility away. And the government doesn't do a good job of it. They're inefficient. It costs more letting the government do it. And they have no right to protect you, or duty to protect you, excuse me. And back to this conversation about Republicans. Republicans talking about deporting illegals and breaking up families. This argument to me is so frustrating because this is a total play on the left, playing on your emotion, playing on fears, and it's sickening. I look at this as no different than what they did with the oh shoot, now my computer's crashing here. Looks like we got Christian on the line. Hey Christian, you there?
Hey, Mac, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, man, it looks like my computer's crashing thanks to Skype. Everything. This Skype has been giving me nothing but trouble here. But hey, give me a call right back, man. Wait like 30 seconds and call back. I got to reboot my computer. Okay.
All
right. Okay. So in the meantime, I'm just going to keep talking about this illegal immigration thing. So, they claim that the left. They claim that deporting illegal immigrants is breaking up families. And it's wrong because, how could you divide this family? Very upsetting to me that this is being used because, first of all, I think this is bull. I think this is the biggest cop-out answer. First of all, they violated the law. All right, they came here illegally. That was their first act in this country, was violating the law and coming here illegally. And, again, it's against the law. Any other law that is violated, they don't have any problems with. For example, gun violence that they claim to deplore. Somebody goes around and they initiate some violence on somebody. You don't hear them complaining that person's going to jail and their family's being broken up. Of course, because they've hurt somebody. Well, okay, so what about other crimes? Are they saying that victimless crimes? Like not paying your taxes. All right, are they saying that if you don't pay your taxes and you go to jail for that you shouldn't go to jail? Because, first of all, I would say you shouldn't. But I know that the statists of the left, the progressives, are not the ones calling for that. These are the guys who want to increase the federal Leviathan. They want to increase the tax burden on you and me. These are the people who want to continue to increase this burden. And, of course, they will come after you with an iron fist if you do not pay your fair share. All right? So don't be fooled by these guys. They do want to break up families. Try not to pay your taxes. See what happens. The IRS, which, by the way, now has guns, goons with guns will be knocking on your door. So try not to pay your taxes, and I guarantee you your family will be broken up, and they're not going to give a crap about your kids. They're not going to worry about it. They're going to put you in jail, have goons with guns come and get your stuff, and they'll find a way to get their money. Like I've said before, the U.S. government is like a casino system, and the house always wins. That's the thing. This system is set up, and right now, as I said before, I think this is going to crash. This is unsustainable. We can't continue at this going rate. We can't continue to give other people's money and borrow and borrow and borrow. See, here's the thing. We're borrowing all this money. We got $18 trillion in debt. We're borrowing all this money from China. By the way, Christian, if you're listening, the computer's back online now, so you can give us a call back. Anyways, we're borrowing all this money from China, $18 trillion in debt, and we're paying all these unfunded liabilities. I mean, we got over, I think it's $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Anyway, we got Christian here on the line. I'll get back to this in a minute. Hey, Christian, you there?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So sorry about that, man. We've had nothing but problems when it comes to Skype recently. I had an update on here, and now suddenly it just keeps crashing every time I get a phone call. So anyway.
That's the beauty of live.
Yeah. So I wanna just get your 411 essentially on what went down, because I missed this event in Birmingham, Alabama. For those of you who don't know, this is Christian Robles Cruz. He is here to discuss what happened at the Never Again Is Now March in Birmingham, Alabama. This was hosted by Glenn Beck. He had this event going on 8/28, and I believe the march is on 8/29. Am I correct, Christian?
Yeah.
Okay.
The march was on Saturday, but the event started on Friday night.
Okay. So let's start by at the beginning. When did you get there?
I actually got there on Wednesday afternoon. I was part of Labor of Love USA. So what this organization does is run by literally amazing people. It's run by Susan and Shelley. What they do is they serve the community all out of pocket, and they decided to come literally 5 days earlier before the event and serve the local community. By serving the local community, I mean that we went out and cleaned bathrooms at women's shelters. We went to homes and literally uplifted the spirit by giving hand massages. Believe it or not, I did some nail trimming. I did some manicures. We were just there to serve the city of Birmingham. So I got there on Wednesday at night. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 300 plus people were there, literally loving up on Birmingham community. And then the event kicked off on Friday night at the Guiding Light Church with Bishop Love. And it was amazing to the point. I'm a Christian. Your audience knows this. And for the next couple minutes that we have, they're going to be like hearing a lot of my beliefs, because this whole event was literally about standing for those who can't stand. For example, and I talked about this on the last McKirgan, it was what we're standing up for the Christians that are being killed overseas, for the gays that are being thrown from buildings because they're gay, for the Muslims that are being killed because they're not Muslims enough, and standing for the kids that are being crucified because they're willing to stand for Jesus. Things like that. That's what we're standing for. And this whole event was never again is now. But it focused around all lives matter. Unborn lives, born lives, white lives, black lives, blue lives. It all matters. And a good point was brought up during this event was that if you can't say all lives matter, then nothing matters. If you literally can't say all lives matter, what is your purpose in life? Because, for example, I kept getting trolls on the internet telling stop changing the subject because Black Lives Matter. And I agree, Black Lives Matter. But I agree to a point that why are we putting a race above another race? You should not be doing that. You should be saying all lives matter. I agree with everybody that says Black Lives Matter, all white lives matter, blue lives matter. I agree with that. But I also agree with all lives matter. What is the problem by saying all lives matter? Jesus tells us to love our neighbor. Jesus came to teach us about love. We're supposed to love the sinner, not the sin. So when you stand up and say, never again is now, all lives matter, everybody should be coming as one. And I've been listening to the entire show like I always do. And, Mac, the problem right now that we're having, all I kept hearing was, but the government. The time you can't blame the government, first of all. I blame the pulpit. The pulpit and the Christian faith is at fault of all this. I learned a lot about history. David Barton spoke 2 times, maybe 3 times, in this 2-day event. And preachers, reverends, pastors were the first one in line defending this country. And this march happened on Saturday. I didn't have high hopes because, not a lot of people are willing to stand. But from what the estimate numbers that the police officers count, they had between 25 and 30,000 people.
Wow.
In a matter of 6 blocks. We marched from Ingham Park to the Legacy Arena. 6 blocks. 6 blocks north and 6 blocks, 6 blocks south and then 6 blocks east. 6 miles. 6 blocks. So 6 blocks, they counted over between 25 and 30,000 people. And it went on record, and I got the newspaper here from the Birmingham News, that was the largest march in Birmingham since Martin Luther King March. And all was because we want love of everybody. We had signs that said courage. We had signs that said love is the answer. We had signs that said God is the answer. We
just has to stand. Unity. All lives matter. And again, people are saying, but what about black lives? Last time I checked, when you say all lives matter, that means everybody. You know, like, really, people, come on. It's not that hard. When you say all, it means everybody.
Were you met with counter-protesters down there?
No, I did not see any counter-protesters at all. It literally was uplifting to see the actual community come outside the offices and literally cheer on and say, all lives matter. That was even better than the march because people agreed. Black people agreed. Hispanic people agreed. Asian people agree. And if you've seen already Glenn's Facebook post, we have people from China, we have people from Dubai, we have people from the Netherlands, we have people from different parts of the country and the world saying all lives matter. And this is not just a United States movement. This is a world movement because baby lives are being killed here in the United States. The largest Christian murder is happening overseas. The Christian population is literally declining overseas. Iraqi Christians are being killed. Coptic Christians are being killed. The problem is that people are not willing to listen. They will listen to the loudest voice. And if you're a Christian, you know that God doesn't speak. He doesn't have to yell at you. He is in the whispers. And again, all these problems that America is happening is because the pulpit have removed themselves from the culture. And I'm not saying that we need Christians removed. No, I'm talking about moral people. I'm talking about people that have and know their principles and they're willing to stand for their principles. Why do you think President Barack Obama is so successful? Because he knows his principles. He knows what he stands for. And he knows that he will get things done because he knows his principle. Why is it that the conservatives and the libertarian are quiet right now? This is the time. This is literally the perfect time for libertarians, for conservatives, for literally everybody that believes in the Constitution. This is the best time to stand up together. It doesn't matter that you're libertarian or conservative. This is right now, in this radio show right now, you've seen it happen. I am a Christian conservative. You have Mac, that is a libertarian. We literally come together because that is the American way. Why is it that people overseas look to America? It's because we are literally the pot that has everything inside. It has all religions. It has all beliefs. It has all the races, and we live united. But the problem is you have activists from Black Lives Matter. You have activists that, from the left, they're willing to divide us, and we will go for the division, and we do that knee-jerk reaction. And then often you're talking about voting with your emotions. You can't vote with your emotions. You have to vote with principles. So on 8/28 and 8/29, the movement began to come as together. And the only way you could do that is by forming local communities and informing people. If you go to glennbeck.com/restoringunity, you can sign up for literally, and you can create the movement in your own time. You don't have to be as big as Glenn Beck. Right now, again, we're the perfect time that you don't have to be as big as Glenn Beck. Look at me. I am a 25-year-old veteran that I'm one of the little voices. But the reason that I'm coming out is because we have to stand together. And the reason, and I'm going to get all preachy with you guys because that's just who I am, is everybody's asking, but why is it that we're in a bad society? Why is it that our government doesn't care? Why is all this happening? And it's perfectly explained on Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. That is what's happening right now. And what's happening, every Christian that is listening to your show that belongs to the MacPack needs to stop and get off your knees. Seriously, get off your knees because the prayer is over. It's time for action. And the people that are not Christian, you still need to stand for action. You still need to stand up. And that's what it's all been about. I don't know if you could hear on my passion, but it's getting sick and tired that people don't care. Last week, I was about to give up and say, you know what? I'm done standing for it. I'm the only one. But this event, if we're not able to see it, it's going to air up on Tuesday at 8 o'clock on the Blaze Network. It's going to, you'll be able to see all the speeches that were given on Saturday night. But I saw 30,000 people say, I'm here to take a stand. I'm here to change the world because only 8% of the population during the revolution were the ones that changed the United States. Only pastors and reverends stood up and said, I'm here. I want to be counted. That's what happened back then. We can't move this country without going back to our principles, without going back to our roots. And the only way you do that is by knowing your history. Correct history. If you want to know about history, go to wallbuilders.com. They have the best stuff on history. Or go to thegreatcourses.com. They also have awesome history. But you have to get unplugged from the social media, not social media, from the media, from the TV, because they will only tell you their agenda. You have to stop and say, look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I going to do to make a difference in this nation? And the millennials need to stand up because we have to start the movement for the next generation, because this generation is not going to see the difference. And it's going to take a long time. The revival, I learned the revival takes a long time, but it needs to jumpstart. And the jumpstart was on Saturday. You will see a different nation in the coming week, in the coming month. And if you're willing to stand, we need 400 churches to stand up and adopt a family out of over in the Middle East that are being persecuted. 400 families, that is nothing. And Glenn revealed the Nazarene Fund that's going to help bring people out of persecution. And people saying, oh, but that's kind of bigot because you're only standing up for the Christians. No. We're standing up for the people being persecuted. And right now, the people that are being wiped out of this world are the Christians. Because the Christians are the ones that hold the truth. When a person gets saved, they no longer belong to the world. So they want to get rid of that hope, because that Christian person will try to bring another Christian person. And that's how it is. And that's why Christians need to get off their knees, stop praying, because prayer is over, Mac. It's time to literally stand up. And I'm going to seriously, from now until I die, I'm going to be standing for that. I've never stood for nothing. I participated on the protest, the national protest, Planned Parenthood, here in Orlando, Florida. That was the best thing that I did, because it was 500 people versus 15 Planned Parenthood that were literally saying that that's not a baby, that's woman self-care. No, we are literally in a time that technology is such a blessing to us that has shown us the true evil that Planned Parenthood is. And what is the population doing? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You go cry for a secret lion that is thousands of miles away, and I bet you, if you take out your iPhone and go to Google and type in Planned Parenthood, I bet you have a Planned Parenthood 20 miles from you. And you're not willing to go over there and say that they're murdering little babies? Come on. Society is literally upside down. And the only way this could go right back up, you don't need that many people. Gideon only needed 300 people. Glenn had a 50 million audience. Only 30,000 people showed up. That tells you that you only need a few percentage. The 8% created this nation. Come on, people. It's time to stand. It's getting to the point that evil is literally slapping you in the face, and you do not care.
So you mentioned coming together, and this for me is something that I absolutely agree with. Personally, I'm not a religious guy myself, but I grew up in a religious family. I like Christians. I have nothing against any religion for that matter. And honestly, I'm pretty fascinated by all religions. That's just me. I liked what you said about getting off your knees and it's the time for prayer is over. And that may be offensive to some people, but I do absolutely agree that we're at a time right now where the emergency lights are blinking. We are in a tight spot. Things are about to hit the fan, and if we don't pump the brakes here, and as a society get up and actually do something, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We're missing the warning signs, and it reminds me of this story that I heard a while back about a Christian and his faith. He was in a flood, and he was under the assumption that God was going to protect him. He's very devout in his faith, and he heard that the flood was coming on the news, and he was like, you know what, God's going to protect me. I don't have to leave. I don't have to do anything, and I'll be fine. God will protect me. And the flood comes in, and he's like, oh, wow, it's really coming up into my yard here. And he's like, well, it's okay. God's going to protect me. A little while later, it's in his house. He's on the second floor of his house. He's like, okay, God's going to protect me. He's on his – and a boat comes by, and it goes right up to his second floor window and said, hey, hop in. And he says, no, God's going to protect me. I'll be fine. So flood rises further. He's up on the roof now. A helicopter comes by and says, hey, hop in. We'll save you. We'll take you to safety. He says, no, God's going to protect me. I'll be fine. And the guy eventually drowns. And he goes up to heaven, and he talks to God. And he says, hey, why didn't you protect me, God? I thought you were going to protect me. And anyway, God says, I did. I gave you all the tools you needed. I gave you the newscast telling you that it was going to flood. I even gave you the ability to have a car that you can get away. I had a boat come up to your window and try to get you out of there, and then a helicopter, and you didn't do anything. I completely agree with you, though, Christian. Now is the time for us to do something. Notice the signs that we see in front of us. Notice that evil is staring us straight in the face when we're talking about ISIS and I mean even the Planned Parenthood thing. Again, this is a very, very complicated subject, and it's a difficult one for so many people. But let's be honest. How controversial is it to actually enforce our laws? That one. This is one, first of all, whether or not you've seen the videos or not, which I think that if you see the videos, it will leave a mark on you, no matter what your position is. But secondly, talking about the law itself, it's against the law to traffic in human body parts. We already understand this, but Planned Parenthood is doing that. They should not, at a very minimum, be getting funded by the taxpayer to perform abortions, and then after that, go ahead and sell the body parts, which is illegal. I mean, at a very minimum, they shouldn't be getting money for that. I completely agree with you. And you said 8%. You were talking about 8% of the population. You reminded me of the 8% solution. And I was kind of talking about this earlier with jury nullification. It only takes 1 out of 12 jurors to nullify a verdict. So if the government, for example, is doing things, acting tyrannical, trying to enforce unjust laws, we as a population, we only need 8% of the population to overturn laws, because this entire system requires us to convict each other through the jury process, and we have a right to a jury of our peers. So, as you were saying, it doesn't take a super majority to win back the country. It just takes 8%, and in some cases even less. The 3%er organization we had on earlier, they were talking about how only 3% actually fought in the Civil War, or I'm sorry, the Revolutionary War for American independence. So, it doesn't take a majority. It just takes a small minority that's willing to just fight like hell.
One thing, Mac, that I want to remind people, that if you're a Christian and you've read the New Testament, you know why Jesus was killed and crucified. Because he was the controversial guy. He was the one that sounded the alarm and said, no. Do not stone that woman. Why are you stoning that woman? Because you also committed sin. Why is it that the government decided, to free, or the people decided to free Barnabas instead of Jesus? Because he was that controversial guy. We are here as a Christian. You're a Christian. You're here to be not normal. Do not conform to do not conform to this world. That is your job. You're not supposed to go with the flow. You're supposed to be that one person that says, enough is enough. Here's the truth. Follow me. That is who you are. And you're not the Christian to be like that. The American way is to be the one that brings the beacon of freedom. And if you are listening, sit back and watch. Are you the one out there saying enough is enough? Or are you the one stupidly behind a stupid computer hitting share and like to support a cause? Because if you're doing that, and that's how you get your belly nice and comfy and say, oh, I did something because I shared it. No, you're an idiot by doing that, because you need to be out there and say enough is enough. My voice counts, because that click that you did doesn't count for anything. Action is what speaks. Not a little click on Facebook, not a little star on Twitter. You need to get your butt off your couch and say enough is enough, because that's the problem that's happening right now. Government thinks and knows we're lazy. So what they're going to do, they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you no longer have anything. And you say, well, what the heck? I guess I don't have anything. No, what kind of person does that? And the one thing, too, is evil will push and push until if somebody fights back. Once you fight back against evil, evil has to go away. Evil has to go away. And I will close by saying one thing that I love literally talking about, and it was on, I'm sorry, I got no connection. And it was by Reverend Charles Finney in 1875. It was, brethren, our preaching will hear its legitimate truths. If immorality prevails and the land, the fault is ours in the great degree. If there's decay of consistency, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the pulpit presents more discrimination, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the church is degraded and worldly, the pulpit is responsible for it. If the world loses its interest in religion, the pulpit is responsible for it. If Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics becomes so corrupt that the very foundation of our government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. Let us not ignore the fact, my dear brethren, but let us lay it to the heart and be truly awake to our responsibility in respect to the morals of this nation. So, Christian, now that you know, people of faith, not just Christian, Mormons, Catholic, Methodists, all your people, now that you know the truth, that the pulpit is literally responsible and you will be held responsible at Judgment Day, what are you going to do about it? And again, you don't have to be Christians to have good morals. There's people out there that are good people and they're not Christians because their morals mimic the Ten Commandments. Their morals mimic the love of Jesus. And the only way this nation can go back to a rightful place in the world is by softening our hearts and looking at our neighbor and say, hey, I love you and I'm willing to go to death for you. Because that's the problem right now. People are so self-centered and they no longer want to be part of the world. They just want to be focused on me. And again, if you're a Christian, you're doing it wrong. Because once you are saved and you belong to Jesus, Jesus has your back, you're supposed to have your brother's back. And if everybody has each other's back, everything works out for the better. Everything works out for the better. That is the only way that this nation will turn back to be number one, is by loving each other and bringing back God into the culture.
You know, with the whole God thing, personally, I'm not like I said, I'm not religious, but I do have a lot of respect for what what Glenn is talking about when he brings Glenn Beck, by the way, is talking about when he brings religion into the conversation. You know, I like the principles behind it. I don't think that necessarily we have to be a society of God for us to actually be able to save ourselves. I think that if we stick to our core principles, our founding principles, and we come together, I agree with that, coming together. But, in terms of what can we do, I mean, I think it's just serendipitous how this episode kind of worked out. We had Tom McKirgan and Rob Taylor on the phone earlier as guests. These guys did something in their own local community. They could have just been, going with the flow and throwing their hands up and said, "What could I do?" And they even tried. I mean, they went to the commissioners of their local county there. Coos County didn't want to do nothing, and they went around them and did it themselves. This is what I think it will take for us to actually get our country back under control. And for me, I understand where you're coming from as far as the religious aspect of it, Christian. But for me, this is government gone crazy is one of our biggest problems, and citizens being apathetic and not caring, not doing anything. And I absolutely agree with you that people have to stand up and do something. But, the way I see it, that, we have a perfect storm brewing in this country right now. We've got the inflated stock market bubble that is it's eventually going to pop. It's just a matter of time. All bubbles pop. And, ISIS, obviously, it becoming a threat in the Middle East, not necessarily a huge issue for this country's security, but there are so many issues going on in the world, and ISIS is one of them. I know that that terrorists want to attack us here at home. For me, I put a little less concern in the national security issue because of, first of all, we've stopped them, which shouldn't make us be relaxed and apathetic, but at the same time, I don't think that they're as big of a threat as a tyrannical government is, in my personal opinion. And then at the same time, we got hate groups and honestly, I believe that this is a hate group. Black Lives Matter is a hate group, and they're brewing and they're trying to divide us. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. And then in addition, we got statists who are on the march to subjugate us at every turn. They're trying to get our rights. And I don't want to be like that guy who's like, oh, they're trying to get our rights. But they are. They are trying to subjugate us. They're trying to force their will upon us and take away our natural rights. And it seems like all of this is coalescing right now, and it's scary. We live in a scary time, and it's going to take all of us, unless we all stand up and try to do something now. We're not going to be able to prevent what is coming, and I'm telling you, it's going to get ugly. What do you think, Christian?
No, I totally agree. The reason that I talk about standing right now is if you start practicing stand for something right now, because we are, I believe, on a critical point that when the storm comes, we will have to seek each other. And if you don't start practicing coming together as one person, as one nation, when poop hits the fan, you will not know what to do if you don't have that unity with your fellow neighbor, with your fellow community, with your fellow state people. You're not going to have that. That's why you have to practice by standing to move aside what you disagreed on. Because I bet you might will probably disagree in a lot of things. But right now, we are coming together because we both believe that there's something brewing, there's something is coming, that's whatever is coming, we have to start ringing the bell. And that's what me and you and other, I call myself low-casting, radio hosts, that's what we're doing at the bottom. Because it all starts at the bottom. That's how this government works. That's how everything in life works. Everything starts at the bottom of the chain of command. And it works your way up. And that's what we got to do. We literally have start coming together. And I'm going to sound like literally like a broken record, because that for me, I think is the answer. Coming together. Putting to the side our differences. Saying, okay, I don't care about what we disagree on. I care about what we agree on. We agree on freedom. We agree on the pursuit of happiness. Is that what we agreed on? Can we agree on all lives matter? Can we agree on that ISIS is wrong? ISIS is evil? Can we agree on that all lives matter? Can we agree on that those are babies in the womb that are being killed? Can we agree on those little things? Because when we start agreeing on those little things, then the big things that we're supposed to disagree on, I bet you we're going to see in this perspective, we're going to see, okay, now I understand why you're seeing it that way. But we have to come together at the little things. First, that all lives matter. Unborn and born lives. White, black, Hispanic, all lives matter. Then we have to come together and say, hey, what can we fight together as one nation? Because once we get all those two fixed, and we get the Christian community to act like the extreme ISIS. Because here's the story. ISIS and other extreme Islamic people, the reason that they act like this is because they believe cold-heartedly on the Quran. Why can a freaking Christian believe on the Bible the same way that the extreme Islamic people do? Why can the Christian be that way? Because it makes no sense. If the ISIS people, the extreme Islamic people, say, I will rape that 9-year-old girl because it brings me closer to Allah, then why in the world can a Christian person say, I can love my neighbor like Jesus told me to love the neighbor? Come on, people. We're literally living in the opposite world where ISIS is more religious than the Christian.
Well, I'll tell you what, when ISIS conquers the world in about 250 years from then, they'll have a left-wing liberal media that will push the PC movement forward, and then they won't be allowed to say those kind of things because it won't be in favor in their religion. See, that's how things work. We've become apologetic. We've become so PC. We've even become a society now that it's called reverse racism to say that somebody was being racist to a white person. Reverse racism. Yeah, I mean that is backwards. There's not just racism against just black people, and it's not always coming from white people. It can come from anybody. But the society is so PC now, and like I said, I think it's just the flow of how societies go. It's we're heading to the demise right now. We're heading to the dustbin of history. We've got a lot of problems that we have coming, and a lot of them are coming from ourselves. And this is an issue. We gotta stop fighting against each other, come together, and actually stand up for our own individual liberty. But Christian, I just want to say thanks so much for giving us a call in, man. We actually got to run, but before I go, I wanted to just ask, as far as during the march, you actually attended the march. Did you bring your kid there with you?
Yes, it was me and my son, and he loved it. He was, after we're done marching, he was like, Daddy, I love to march. I love to stand for something. And he's only 4 years old. When he told me that, I literally felt like the best parent in the entire world. When a 4-year-old tells me, Dad, I love the march, and I love to stand for something. I was like, where in the world did you get that kind of vocabulary? You're only 4 years old.
He's listening to you, man. He's listening to you. Honestly, I've got to say, big props to you. Stupid kudos for taking your son with you to that event. I think that this is one of the best things that we can do is to bring our kids to stuff like this, and not drag them by force or something, but actually get them interested in this kind of stuff at a young age and inspired. It's going to take the next generation. I mean, these are problems that this generation, even my generation of millennials, we're probably not going to be able to fix. It's going to be the generation after us that's going to have to clean up all this mess. My generation of millennials is a bunch of just what I think is just entitled kids who they've always been used to getting everything for free, so now they want it all for free, and they expect the government to get the same thing. They're buying into the Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton progressive agenda of giving you whatever you want and buying your votes. So I think it's super important that we get our kids involved in this, and I just got to give you a massive amount of credit to that. So good job, Christian.
Thank you, Mac.
All right. Well. Anyway, we got to take off, and we're going to cut to a commercial break. Then we're going to come back and do an overdrive. But anyway, Christian, thanks again. And by the way, you want to blast out social media so people can follow you on Twitter and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. You can go to twitter.com/RC_KRIS. Or you go to facebook.com/KRISCRUZRC, and you can follow me there. And Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I do a radio show on War Network.
Alrighty. Well, thanks so much again for joining us. And by the way, I am going to take you up on that offer because for those of you out there in listener land, Christian offered to fill in for me when I'm not able to do a show. So I will be taking you up on that offer at some point, Christian. I just want to say thanks for offering.
Anytime you need me to fill in, just let me know.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one. Take care.
All right, God bless. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I have a few thoughts that I want to give you guys regarding what I see coming. And I want to also hit on some of these other points regarding the feature topics that we have today. So, I want to talk about why you shouldn't vote angry. I'm going to talk about we kind of already touched on the gun control issue from Progressive, but we're going to talk about it in conjunction with this shooting and why I believe the Black Lives Movement the Black Lives Matter movement has blood on its hands. So anyway, we'll be right back after these messages, guys. You don't want to miss this coming up, so don't go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, MacPack. We're heading into the third hour. This is the overdrive hour of the program. Just consider this overtime, extra minutes that you got here. We are going to dive right into these feature topics here. So let me start where we left off. And that's, us having issues here with uninformed voters. Some people call these useful idiots, and that's not me saying that, that's Marx himself saying it. He called these people who are uninformed, people who are just working to push the liberal agenda, something that they didn't know anything about, but they were just being useful and uninformed, useful idiots. So let's talk about most people. I'm starting to realize that a lot of people don't look at politics through the same lens that I do. All right? And I'm not saying that I'm better or smarter or something. I'm just saying that I actually pay attention to what's going on. And I would say a good chunk of society does not. All they want to do is just, have a full belly and be entertained. That's all they care about. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's your right. You can care about whatever you want. But it's hard for me to wrap my mind around how Obama can get elected 2 times. I had a hard time with that, and I think that really means that anything can happen. I've said that Joe Biden doesn't really have a shot at winning. He's a joke candidate. However, Barack Obama did get elected twice. So who knows? Anything could happen. I have a very low bar of expectations from the American people nowadays, and it's because we have a huge voting bloc of uninformed people, useful idiots, voting for free stuff, and basically voting for the person who can enslave them the quickest. We have progressives right now that are they never miss an opportunity for more gun control. They go by the saying, you never let a crisis go to waste. In fact, that's Rahm Emanuel. He says, and I quote, "You never let a serious crisis go to waste." And what I mean by that is it's an opportunity to do things you didn't think you could, to do things you think you could not have done before. Unbelievable. So you're using this to push gun control in a situation that you wouldn't have been able to do before. They're open about it, at least amongst themselves. That's the thing, is that the leftists, the progressives, they're so brash about it that they'll tell you their plan right to your face, and they'll just keep pushing. They're relentless. They never stop. They've been pushing this for over 100 years. So I want to talk about this recent shooting here, this media shooting. First of all, I dislike this story for so many reasons. Many of you may be aware that there was a man who was a disgruntled employee. He worked for a news station, got fired, and then he shot a news anchor and her cameraman and the woman that she was interviewing live on the air. This has been all over the news. I find it impossible that if you're listening to this is the first that you've ever heard about it. I find this extremely implausible. However, if you are not aware, this happened, and this psychopath, this crazy disgruntled employee, he recorded it and posted his shooting on Facebook. He later went and he shot himself like a coward. Because that's what these people do. They're cowards, and they don't want to fight to actually fight anybody or face any consequences for their actions. They're cowards. So anyway, I dislike this story firstly because it's disgusting. It's a disgusting display of what human beings are capable of doing, and this is pure evil. That's what it is. It's evil on display in HD. Televised for us all to see. Then we all jump online and we watch the video of the shooting, and you watch every aspect of it, and we're glorifying the shooter himself. This is exactly the kind of stuff he wanted. He printed up a manifesto, which, by the way, is full of craziness, and we'll get to that. But he printed up a manifesto. This man obviously wanted attention, and we're doing just that. We're giving him attention and potentially inspiring other people to be copycats, do other stuff. I mean, I understand we have a right to report on things as far as with the media. However, I don't really know what good it does. And secondly, this story received wall-to-wall coverage. All right, and at first I'm thinking, it's just another gun control thing that they can push. But then I realized they're not really pushing that narrative as hard as I thought they would. And I think it might have something to do with the fact that it was a black gay man that did the shooting. I don't know. It doesn't. I think it just doesn't quite fit into the narrative. And by the way, the Black Lives Matter people, they were jumping. At first, they speculated that it was a white man, and they were going to make a big deal about it. And then they didn't. They just backed off on that because they realized it was a black man after the fact. So imagine. I just want you to imagine how differently this would have been reacted to had it been a white man. Had it been a white person who committed this atrocity. I want you to imagine the difference of the media and Black Lives Matter. What would have happened I believe that there would have been some kind of protests, riots. I think it would have gotten crazy if this had been a white man, especially a white man killing a black man. Let's say the anchor was black. All right, I definitely think that there would have been protests. If there was white on black violence, would have been nothing but protests in the streets. So, anyway, they don't really care when it's black on white, though. It doesn't really matter. But I've started to realize that this is more of a media protects its own. The reason why it received wall-to-wall coverage. The media, these were journalists, and journalists care about journalists. So they're going to put it on the news. They're going to portray this every different way. I mean, we know every single aspect of the shooter and the families of the victims and all this stuff. We know everything about their lives because of how deep they dove into this story. It was a personal story to the media. So basically what the media does is focus our attention on an issue. That's basically all they're doing is, hey, pay attention to this now, pay attention to this, pay attention to this. And when they start casting that focus on one issue all day, if you ever hear of a news story, you're flipping through, and it's on every news channel, and it's on every news channel all day, ask yourself why. Why is this on the news channel today? What is the purpose of this being on the news today? In this case, I think it serves two purposes. One, it's another mass shooting. So the media, if it bleeds, it leads. They'll put it online, or they'll put it on the front page. And in addition, it's the media protecting its own. These are journalists, and they are journalists. They are, by golly, going to report on this. The third reason I dislike this story is because ISIS has been killing and kidnapping Christians and Muslims who aren't Muslim enough, and it doesn't even make the front page of a newspaper. I want you, right now, if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, please go to Google. Google.com. Now type in the search, ISIS kidnaps. Just search ISIS kidnaps. I'm looking at the Christian Post. ISIS kidnaps over 100 Christian families. It's August 7th. August 12th, ISIS kidnaps 160 Christians in Syria. Again on August 2nd. August 7th, ISIS kidnaps 230 Christians and Muslim men and women, I'm guessing and children there. 182 children, 130 school children, 220 Christians. ISIS is kidnapping people in this region. They're killing people. They're executing people. They're throwing homosexuals off of rooftops. And we don't care. We're not paying attention. The only thing we care about is this story. This story is taking every single bit of air out of the room, and all we're focused on is this one story from a deranged individual who we're giving him exactly what he wants by talking about it. That's why I'm not talking about his name. I'm not gonna name him. This man obviously wanted attention, but why aren't we really talking about the issues? Why don't we talk about ISIS? Why don't we talk about what's going on in the Middle East? And instead of talking about this one issue, why does this shooting receive so much attention and ISIS nothing? We don't hear anything about it. By the way, FYI, there's still a war on in Afghanistan. Did you know that? They're still fighting? When's the last time you heard about something in Afghanistan? When's the last time you saw it on the news? Well, because right now we have a progressive president, and as we all know, progressive presidents, they don't do the war thing. By the way, as you can see, there is no war right now, right? No war. Obama got us out of that. Oh yeah. And you have the people who are the anti-war movement. They're suddenly so quiet when we have a progressive president in office. Anti-war movement, where are you? Cricket, 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 cricket. Nowhere to be found when progressive presidents are in office. But then if we get a Republican office, boom, we'll see things on the media all the time about Afghanistan. If we're still there, if we end up anywhere else, We'll see it on the media all the time because, again, the liberal media protects the liberal president in office or whoever the candidate is. Liberals look out for them. So the media is in the liberal pocket, in the progressive pocket. They have them right where they want them. But also, I think we pay attention. And this is not my idea. I'm not stealing, or I'm liberally stealing this idea from I think it was Glenn Beck who said this. I agree with this. I think we're focusing so much on this because it's safe, even though it's not safe. It's a story about a mass shooting. It makes people feel uncomfortable. It's safe because it kind of is an isolated incident, and ISIS isn't. ISIS, when you look at that, it forces you to have to do something, and that seems to be a recurring theme on this. Do something, do something. This seems to me like an obvious evil showing its face when you see ISIS. You can't help but see the evil. And they're worse than the Nazis ever were. The Nazis at least tried to hide how evil they were from the world. ISIS is putting it on display. Yet we're not looking at it. We refuse to look at it. Because if we look at it, it forces us to confront the idea that we have to do something. The idea that never again is now, as Glenn Beck is trying to push the hashtag. I mean, honestly, I'm not for war or involvement in the Middle East. I don't want us to get into more wars. But we're talking about trying to save lives. Glenn Beck right now, he's working with the Mercury charity that he has, and they're trying to save, I believe it's 400 families in the Middle East, people that our government won't take, and they're trying to find a place to put them. Our government will take up to, I think it's they're taking 5,000 Muslims, which, by the way, the Muslim religion is not being threatened with eradication. So they'll take the people that aren't being threatened by eradication, but they won't take Christians or Yazidis. This is a real issue. Never again. That's what we said after World War II. We would never allow these kind of atrocities to happen. The American government, by the way, they knew what was happening to the Jews. They knew. And they said, we're not in this war to save the Jewish people. They were there to win the war, not to save the Jewish people. And they had opportunities. They could have blown up the train tracks that led into the concentration camps. They chose not to do it because they weren't trying to save the Jews. After the war, in hindsight, we all realize that we can never allow these kind of atrocities to happen again. And now seems to be the time. If I'm not calling for war. I don't want war. But how difficult is it for us to actually take some humanitarian action and save lives? I think we have to. I honestly, again, I'm against war. I don't want us to get involved into another long, drawn out situation. But there are people right now that are being exterminated. We have to get up. We have to do something. And I don't know what our government's going to do, but I really, if anyone would like to get involved in the situation with Glenn Beck is on, you can check out his website, The Blaze. I'm sure there's information on there. I don't know anything about it. I wasn't prepared to really talk about that today, but I just think this is important information to get it. You have an opportunity now to save 400 families. They raised, I think, over $1 million now for this, and it cost $25,000 per family. We'll get them out of there somewhere safe, protected for a year, and it's a family of 5. So 400 families of 5. I think this is a pretty good cause. If you have the time, you got the money, go check it out. I would see what you could do. But anyway, with ISIS, the situation makes you feel uncomfortable. The news is they don't want to cover this because that forces us to confront these feelings. And also, like I said, the liberal media, they love to cover mass shootings. And they always look for a reason to advance the gun control agenda. So I want to play a clip here from Hillary Clinton. she's talking about this shooting, and I'll let you hear her words, and I'll make some comments on it.
But I will also reiterate, we have got to do something about gun violence in America. And I will take it on. There are many people who face it, know it, but then turn away because it's hard. It's a very political, difficult issue in America.
Okay. All right. I just have to comment on this. After talking about the ISIS situation, that's hard. And people are turning away from it because nobody wants to be the person to say, we need to go back to the Middle East, we need to go get involved in another war. Nobody wants to do that. That's hard. That's a hard conversation. Gun control, that's easy. You don't have a right to take it away. We never granted you that authority. So you shall not infringe upon this right. That's easy. But here she goes.
America. But I believe we are smart enough, we are compassionate enough to figure out how to balance the legitimate Second Amendment rights with preventive measures and control measures so that whatever motivated this murderer who eventually took his own life, we will not see more deaths.
Okay. So we're going to go back here, and I just want to point out, she said legitimate Second Amendment right, as if she believes that you actually do have a right to bear arms. So let's point this out. 1 second. Here we go.
To figure out how to balance the legitimate Second Amendment rights.
Okay. Balance legitimate Second Amendment rights. Now, first of all, legitimate Second Amendment rights, that acts as if we're saying that we have a right to this and it's not legitimate. Like, our interpretation of our right to keep and bear arms is not legitimate, but she can tell us, she can read between the lines of the Constitution and tell us what is a legitimate right. So we can carry a gun or own a gun in the way that she or some other bureaucratic body sees fit. Yeah, I don't think it's how the Constitution's written. It says shall not be infringed. Pretty clear. No real lines to read through. You just read it. You read the words and understand. It's reading comprehension 101, fella. All right? It's pretty simple. So she goes on. Balance it with
preventive measures and control measures so that whatever motivated this murder.
Okay. Preventive measures and control measures. So what is she talking about? She's talking about background checks, everybody. Background checks. Universal background checks, which I think she goes into a little later here in this little spiel that she's doing. Universal background checks. Well, we already know that universal background checks don't matter. Background checks don't work. Doesn't matter anyway because the government's not even enforcing the laws on the books. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people who fail the background checks every year. And guess what? Only a handful of those are prosecuted. And I mean dozens. Only dozens are prosecuted. Thousands violate. Only dozens are actually prosecuted. They're not enforcing the laws. They're not enforcing the laws because they want violent people on the streets. They want those people to continue breaking the law, harming other people, hurting people in society. That way they can blame it on us, the law-abiding citizens, the gun owners. Oh, it's our fault that other people are hurting other people. It's our fault because we want to assert a right that we have innately. It's our right naturally. We never granted the government the ability to take it away. In fact, we specifically said, government, you'll never touch this. You will never infringe upon this right. Not only did we say that they don't have the authority to do it, or we never granted them that authority, but we specifically said that they don't have the authority to touch this right. How more clear can we be? In background checks, let's just point out here, I just have to note that the shooter, who again will remain nameless, he bought his gun legally. He got access to the gun with a background check. He passed the background check. So all the crap that she's spewing right now, preventative control, all of this other stuff, background checks, universal background check, all this stuff, none of it would have stopped this crime from happening. So you can play the what if game, Hillary and all the other progressives. Oh, we need common sense gun reform and all this other stuff. You need gun sense, blah, blah, blah. This all leads to one ideological road. And if you're following it consistently, if you are a progressive and you're following the gun control road, it all leads to an outright ban. All of it. There's no way around it, because what they're calling for will do nothing. What they're calling for will do nothing. And again, Dianne Feinstein, her own words.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Of course, they want all of your guns. They don't want universal health care. Universal background checks. They don't care about your safety. They want you afraid. They want you afraid enough to give up your rights. This is problematic, but this is, I think this is an exact reason. This is how the left operates. The left does things this way. They want you scared. They don't want you to think. They want you to think that they're not the extremists, when in fact they are. We're the extremists for trying to leave things alone, keep the status quo, at least keep what little shred of rights we have left. But we're the extremists. We're the irresponsible ones, when they're the ones spewing lies and letting criminals go back out on the street to commit violent crimes in order to perpetuate their agenda. We're the bad people. Right. Okay. Even though all of the things that they want, that they say right now, wouldn't have stopped this from happening. Or many of the other mass shooting crimes. By the way, most of those people got their guns either through taking it from a family member who got it lawfully, or they bought it themselves. Or they should have never had it in the first place, which is already against the law. So again, if all of these things happen, do you not think that these people will find a way to get a gun? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Now, I had a story here. Let me see here. I'm trying to find this. I don't know where it went off to. Anyway, I'll just basically reiterate what it was. So in this mass shooting, they actually interviewed the husband of the victim who survived, and he said he doesn't blame the gun. He thinks that this guy was already going to do something, whether or not he had access to a gun or not. I mean, he could have used a knife, something along those lines. But basically, I'm paraphrasing. He just did not blame the knife. He blamed the gun. He blamed the shooter, the person wielding the gun. So, and that's how it should be. You don't blame your spoon for making you fat. That's just the tool that got you there. Just like with firearms, you don't blame the gun. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Unbelievable. Anyway, so let's move on here, and this is actually linked to this shooter story. Why is the Black Lives Movement? Why is it stained with blood? I believe that this is a hate group, in my opinion. The Black Lives Matter movement is a hate group. They're spewing racism. Now, again, as I said before, black people can be racist to white people, and any other race can be racist to any other race. The definition of racism, discrimination, essentially boils down to this one point. You treat someone different because of the color of their skin. You treat them different because they are different than you, or maybe the same. Maybe you hate your own race. All of these things are possible. I mean, hell, when we talk about progressivism, by the way, this is one thing I don't quite understand within in the progressive movement. They're not ideologically consistent. You can have 55 different sexes, genders. You can have all these different types of ways that you'll feel. You can be, Shoot, I don't even know. You could be tons of different kind of sexualities. Just look on Facebook, choose your gender. You'll be surprised at how many there are. But that's totally accepted. But the idea that a black person being racist to a white person is reverse racism, as if we have been racist first, and now they're doing it back to us. Look, I had nothing to do with slavery, all right? I wasn't even born, all right? Why am I being punished? I am not ashamed of being white. I am proud to be white, just like I hope that you're proud to be whatever race you are. I don't believe in this whole concept that we should be politically correct and be apologetic. Look, I'm white. I'm allowed to be proud to be white, all right? And I will call people out if they're treating me different because of my race. Good or bad. Good or bad. If you're treating me different because of the color of my skin and not the content of my character or my actions, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's racist. So, this Black Lives Matter movement, completely racist. It's spreading so much hate and spewing hate about white people and putting a major division between white people and black people who are buying into this. All right. First of all, I don't think that the majority of people are buying into this, but all they need is a loud and vocal minority. And I just recently finished up Animal Farm by George Orwell, and excellent book. If you haven't read it, check it out. Animal Farm, great read. But if you have read it, I'm equating the Black Lives Matter movement to the sheep in Animal Farm. Really, they're useful idiots, all right? And they are creating a distraction. They're just loud noise, shutting down opposition, shutting down political campaign speeches, things along those lines. They just get in and they start screaming, "We are reasonable! Listen to us!" Look, this is nothing different than when the sheeps would just blurt out, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And they just did that for 5-10 minutes. Anytime anybody thought that they would speak up against what was happening, the sheep started screaming, and by the time they were done, it was too late to really protest. So that's what Black Lives Matter movement is. It's essentially the Animal Farm sheep. But the problem is this is really spewing, and the difference in how the media portrays this. I want you to imagine a White Lives Matter movement, all right, that is equally hateful and racist as Black Lives Matter, because it is racist. It is very prejudiced against white people. Period. I mean, that's like 90% of the platform is hatred towards of white people. It's unfortunate that it's dividing this big of a wedge. But imagine a White Lives Matter movement, how the media would portray it, how much attention it would get. It would be a hate group, and oh my gosh, they would be loathed. No political party would touch them at all. They wouldn't want anything to do with that. And then imagine if one of their listeners, one of their followers, somebody who was stirred up and inspired by that group, went out and shot somebody and sent a manifesto to the news media saying how racist, black people had done things to them, and how they hated black people and all this other stuff, all this racially charged things. Do you think for 1 second that the mainstream media would not annihilate that group and everyone connected to them? But what's happening now? What is happening? The mainstream media is not covering this aspect. They're not linking this shooting to Black Lives Matter, which is responsible for stirring up this guy. I mean, first of all, this guy was already crazy. Let's be real. He called himself a powder keg just waiting to go off. So this division that Black Lives Matter has created has already, it's lit the match to that powder keg. Now, I want you guys to know, in every group of people, there's somebody like this. All right? There's somebody who you really wouldn't want to be your spokesperson for your group, but may be involved, So for this, any group at all, if they were saying this kind of stuff on a national stage that the Black Lives Matter movement said, it's bound to stir up emotions and make people maybe do stuff that they otherwise wouldn't have done, or at least not at that point. Maybe inspire people to do things. I don't know, but I think that the Black Lives Matter movement is responsible for these killings in one way or another. They have certainly stirred the pot, and I think that they are a hate group. I absolutely think that they are. And I don't think that they're going anywhere, by the way. And by the way, I think shootings from black men on white people is going to be more of a frequent occurrence. So I just wanted to let you guys know that people who are subscribing to these kind of movements, these Black Lives Live movements, they're just getting started. It's just getting started. So not only do we have all the other crap to worry about now, but now if you're white, be careful. You may get shot. So just giving you a heads up, everybody. You know, we need to come together, and this is driving us apart. And again, this is all part of the political agenda of the left. Divide us. Get the angry groups. And by the way, Black Lives Matter, to me, again, another Orwell book, is 1984. This group reminds me of the minutes of rage that they would have, where they just want to scream, just to scream. A lot of these people don't even know what they're talking about. It doesn't matter to them that the fact that, statistically speaking, the deaths that are happening is so much smaller being dealt from police than it is from their own community. Black on black crime is way higher, statistically speaking, than police on black crime. Now, I'm not saying that police on black crime doesn't happen. Like, police don't violate black people's rights. Police violate everybody's rights equally. It has nothing to do with your skin color. It's a status thing. Police violate rights on many occasions. Now, not all of them. Some of them respect the oath they took, but some of them do not. That has nothing to do with your skin color. That has to do with the law enforcement. Yeah, some law enforcement is racist, and yeah, that may have something to do with your skin color, how you're being treated. But again, that's already illegal for them to do that kind of stuff. And we need to take our government back. We need to stop our law enforcement officers from doing that. But if Black Lives Matter was really serious, and it wasn't just a minute of hate that people are screaming just to scream, just to be out there, just to get their point across, and they don't even know what their point actually is. If they were really serious about this movement, they would talk about black on black crime. They would focus on that. They would do things in their community to do that instead of focusing on this hatred, which only serves to instigate more violence and riots. I mean, the Ferguson riots. I mean, seriously, can anybody say that did something good for this movement? No. Of course it did. It may have brought more people, more ignorant, useful idiots to this group, but it certainly didn't do anything to help the cause of black lives. And it's certainly not going to help when more white people start getting killed. The Black Panthers are already talking about this kind of stuff. There's a new movement, a new resurgence of the Black Panthers, and they're coming back. They're talking about violence against whites and a race war, and that just so happens to be what this shooter from the news, the recent news reports, the guy who shot the two journalists and the person that they were interviewing, he was talking about a race war. He was talking about the Charleston shooter, and he said he wants a race war, we'll bring it on, and he's going to go do it. And that was his part of it. I'll tell you, if things were reversed, there would be no way that a White Lives Matter movement would not get a completely different treatment in the media. Completely different. It'd be night and day. It would already be over with, by the way. It would be shut down. People would have gotten silenced. If this kind of stuff was happening on the right to the left, the liberal media would have attacked this like crazy. Anyway, so let's move on to why you should never vote angry. And this kind of leads us to where we just were. You know, Black Lives Matter has blood on your hands. You know, I think that's something that the left is going to continue to do. Stir the pot, make people angry, create more division. But regarding why we shouldn't vote angry, why shouldn't we return, meet hate with hate and meet these kind of things with like return, essentially. we have a imperial president in office right now. The Senate changes rules with the filibuster, and that was underneath a Democrat Senate. Now we've got a Republican Senate, but it's not our turn to be the bully. All right, that's one thing I need to make very clear, and I need to really warn about. We don't need to be the bully. It's not our turn. We're not waiting on our turn to be the bully so we can turn on the machinery that they created for us and enhanced for us during these last 8 years with the Obama administration for tyranny. You know, all the things that they've done, all these rules that they've created within the Senate, like killing the filibuster and like with all these executive orders and things like that. We've created such a big federal leviathan, and it's not about just the right people taking it over. It's not about the right guys controlling this, because what people fail to understand is that eventually your guy won't be in office. Eventually, someone will get into power that you did not want to have that power. And maybe it won't be today or tomorrow that somebody has power and they turn the key and turn on the machine of tyranny to where we lose all of our rights. Maybe that won't happen anytime soon. But are we willing to say that as time goes on and we give more and more power to the presidency, to the executive branch, and Congress makes itself more and more useless, are we willing to say that that's never going to happen? No. At least I'm not. I don't think... I think the people in power now have too much power. But as time goes on, it's going to grow more and more. Like the invasive plant species that it is, government grows out of control, grows into areas that you never would have expected it to, and grows faster than we ever could have imagined. Here's my issue. I don't want to talk about him very much, because I said I wasn't going to do it that often, but it looks like I'm going to have to. We have a situation where Donald Trump, all right, in my opinion, he's practically the same as Barack Obama. In policy, he used to be exactly the same. Now he's flip-flopped, and let's just say that he's different policy-wise. I would disagree, but let's just say he is. As far as, even if he was conservative, which he's not, he's a progressive, but even if he was conservative, he's no different than Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Donald Trump is no different than Barack Obama. He's got the same mentality where he'll destroy his enemies. I mean, just look at what's happening with the Megyn Kelly situation. He's like a fish on a hook. He won't let go of this situation because he feels that Megyn Kelly wronged him. And because of that, he's called her a bimbo. He's doing everything he can to discredit her, downplay her, and basically attack her on social media. That's a bully. That is a bully. He's attacking his enemies. This is no different than what Barack Obama does. We don't need this kind of guy in the White House. This is another bully. It's not our turn to be the bully. I get why people are drawn to that. They're tired of getting kicked around. I get it. It's been a tough time under the Obama administration. These last 7 years, roughly. Jeez, it has been rough. It has been difficult. And I understand. I get why you're frustrated. I get why you think that, okay, well, now it's our turn. Now it's the liberals' turn to feel like they've been kicked. I get the desire for that. I get the need for that. But I think it's a mistake. And I think it's going to lead to the wrong man getting in office. We need people, or women, by the way. We need people who will put their principles, their convictions, their philosophy ahead of their individual power. We need a president that will make executive orders to restrict the use of executive orders and the power of the executive. We need a Congress that will restrict their own powers. This stuff is never going to happen. You know, this is why I think that we're in a really difficult situation. I think we're headed for bad times because I'm not holding my breath that politicians are going to restrict their own power. I don't see it. Unless we force them, a grassroots movement. And I don't know. I hope that there's enough people there. I hope that I know that you members of the Mac Pack, you guys are, like I say every week, the tip of the spear. You guys are there. You guys are on it. You guys are the 8% solution. You guys are the grassroots. And I think the only thing we can really do right now is, first of all, brace for impact, because it's coming. Something bad's coming. And, I don't have a timeline. I don't know when. I don't even know how. I don't even know which one of these things is going to blow up. But there's so many. The barbarians are at the gates. We're being circled by wolves. There's so many bad things going on right now in America and in the world. I have definite concerns for the future. I think that, like Christian did, you need to educate your children. We need to brace for impact, because it is coming. And we need to try to spread the message of liberty. We need to talk to as many different people as possible. Try to explain our points of view. Try to educate the uninformed, because there's a lot of them. If you sit me down in the room with a useful idiot, I'm going to do my best to explain why what they want is not going to be accomplished through how they're doing it. And then I will try to explain to them a new way to go about doing it, by empowering the citizens, personal responsibility, things along those lines. But it's going to take us getting in front of people who disagree with us, putting ourselves in uncomfortable positions, putting ourselves on the line. I'm very concerned about what's going on, and I don't know if we have the power or the will to turn this thing around. I mean, it's going to take a lot of us. 8% of the population, I think we could do it with that. But we got to get that 8% that's willing to stand. It's one thing to be a keyboard warrior and to sit there and type your things on social media and hashtag whatever cause, but it's another thing entirely to get involved. It's another thing entirely to stand up and do something that there can be some real consequences with. Standing up for your rights, doing something that you could potentially go to jail for, to protest. Just saying that there are real consequences, and it shouldn't be entered into lightly, which is exactly why that number is going to be smaller. And that's all we need. We just need a small core of people that are willing to do what it takes and say no to tyranny. Say no to big government. And all the problems that we have is from big government. Honestly, all of these problems that we have, all these things we're talking about, the stock market, that's a big government problem. That is a big government problem. It's not a free market problem. The government's manipulating the economy, manipulating the stock market. All this is a big government's fault. We talk about Black Lives Matter movements, things along those lines. Well, you know what? Gun control as well. All of this stuff wouldn't be as big of an issue if people weren't so reliant on getting special interests in government groups to do their bidding. I mean, that's special interest basically gets favors from the government, and the government is then doing favors for this group, and it's hurting other people, or it's coming out of the pockets of other people, and then everybody's getting in line to try to get their hand out. It's a big government problem. It's big government. And we're being divided by politicians, by the way, and race baiters like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. These people are getting paid to create division, and they're doing it for a political agenda, and that's big government. It's all big government. Things are going to get worse, by the way. So I would just say I hope you guys are prepared for what's to come. I mean, I don't even know how you can even be prepared for what's to come, because I don't know what's to come. But I can tell you that regarding Donald Trump, by the way, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. By the way, just in case you weren't aware, he was recently just talking about how tariffs are his solution. He wants to create tariffs, put them on China and other countries as well, on goods being imported into the country. He wants to put tariffs on these things. First of all, that's not a conservative principle. That is a socialist principle. That's a market manipulation. That's not free market. Socialist. So just an FYI, that's not it's not a conservative principle. And in addition, he also is for universal health care. As you all know, he said that it's working well in Canada and is working really great in Scotland. Again, the principle of this, first of all, these they aren't actually functioning well. But secondly, in principle, you should be diametrically opposed to universal health care because it is theft. Universal health care is theft. It is no different than stealing money out of your pocket. Because that's what redistribution of wealth is. Redistribution of wealth is theft. That's what it is. There is no way around this morally. It is theft. And you can claim that it's for the greater good and all that, but there have been studies which, by the way, cannot show a rise in the well-being of their citizens with the increase of the welfare state. Studies proving that just because their welfare state's bigger, it doesn't mean that people are better off. So, again, in principle it fails, in function it fails, and morality-wise it fails. So, again, Donald Trump not conservative. So we need people that aren't going to play this game anymore, and we just have to dig in and try to find the right candidates and do things on the grassroots level and prepare for what's to come, because I think things are going to get bad, and I think they're going to get really bad pretty soon. So dig in, guys. Anyway, that's our show for today. I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thanks so much, members of the Mac Pack, for tuning in week after week. I want to thank Christian for giving us a call today. It was an awesome conversation with him. And Tom McKirgan and Rob Taylor, I think is his name. Let me double check that up at the top here. I gotta go up to the top of my notes here. Rob Taylor, yeah, Tom McKirgan and Rob Taylor. So thanks so much for joining us on the program, guys. I really do appreciate it. And MacPack, thank you for tuning in week after week. You guys are awesome. The tip of the spear. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to tune in next week. We broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to check us out at our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. Follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on iTunes. You can also get us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.